Hello all, my name is Bailey Ubellacker and I'm a PhD candidate at the University of Kentucky for Educational Leadership. I'm excited to share with you today an explorative study of Kentucky Teacher Leader Graduate Program's response to policy change. The purpose of the study was to explore and describe how Kentucky graduate teacher leader programs formally develop their candidates and how to investigate the teacher leader model standards are incorporated into the design and preparation of the teacher leader programs. This research was timely, so Kentucky policy mandated significant change in the program content requirements effective August 2019, thus providing a unique opportunity to understand and design candidate development. Because teacher leadership is being utilized to achieve diverse goals in schools, attention to how teacher leaders are developed is needed. Further definitions and responsibilities of teacher leadership are not uniform in theory or in practice, as stated by Killon et al. 2016. Strategies used to develop teacher leaders range from informal professional practices, so professional development activities, to formal graduate programs, in which is the focus of this study. This places emphasis on a wide range of practices involved in teacher development. This slide focuses on the targeted population for my study. So among the top degree producers were comprehensive institution, as shown by Perrone and Tucker in their 2019 publication, looking at educational leadership degrees conferred from 2000 to 2014. My target population for this study emerged from our Kentucky's current 21 accredited teacher leader programs. From this population, a sample was composed of institutions with the highest producing teacher leadership degrees from academic years 2014 to academic years 2018 to 2019. So another component of my study is looking at the teacher leader model standards, and that's part of that policy that changed. So here I have the 7 domains in which the certified teacher leader programs are to follow and incorporate into their programs. Relevant literature tells us that as teacher leaders helped reculture schools, the loose definition was even too narrow to capture the span of the roles and responsibilities that teachers assume. So really there wasn't this universal definition of responsibilities as well as defining teacher leader. And then the literature also tells us that teacher leaders are valuable agents of change. So they're intending and making this real change. They serve both formal and informal roles in decision making. They understand the needs and the interworkings of the school, and they engage in best practices through collaboration. Teacher leaders require a variety of supports. These supports include environmental and developmental structures that provide the frame in which teacher leadership is built. My developed teacher leadership definition is as follows, and this is what I use to guide my research. Teachers collaborating through collective skills, promising effective practices, and learning professionally to influence and promote effective school and student improvement as aligned with those teacher leader model standards. Now for the research question. So my overarching research question was, how are teacher leaders formally prepared in Kentucky? So really exploring what these programs are doing to support our teacher leaders within the Commonwealth and beyond. How are frameworks, such as supporting structures, concepts, and research, used at selected institutions for designing and delivering the program? Secondly, how do Kentucky teacher leadership programs at selected institutions align instructional strategies to support teacher leader development within the teacher leader model standards? Third, what role do professional learning communities or communities of practice play in supporting teacher leader development within the selected institutions programs? So that's coming from that literature base, really discussing communities of practice and professional learning as a support for teacher leaders. And then lastly, how do Kentucky teacher leader programs at selected institutions evaluate candidate success in addressing their program goals? This research follows a conceptual framework that incorporates Danielson's 2006 work, where 3 levels of where teacher leadership extends and exists within the realm of school-wide policies and programs, teaching and learning, and then communications and community relations, both within the school and team and then beyond the school, so the community and outreach there. So this is actually what I developed, the layered framework for models of, and development within teacher leadership, with the foundation being Danielson's work with those three realms, with the teacher leader model standards fitting within one of those three categories. And at the bottom of that bottom row in each cylinder is those development supports or strategies based from the research and the literature that I have. Now that I've discussed our conceptual framework, I'm going to talk a little bit about the research design. So this study was a qualitative multi-case study that explored our Education Professional Standards Board certified teacher leader programs to understand how Kentucky teacher leaders are developed through that lens of the teacher leader model standards and that conceptual framework that I just reviewed. So from this process, after I had my sample on those 10 institutions, I started with website document review, doing an analysis of that. Once I found some members of faculty or the leaders of those programs, I was able to reach out with an email and a questionnaire for them to complete. I also looked at programs' curriculum contracts and the matrices and publicly available information of each institution in their specific programs. And then also with interviews, so being able to interview either faculty or leaders in the selected teacher leader programs in the state of Kentucky. So my analysis resulted in several research findings. So looking at materials and interview transcripts or questionnaires from these institutions, I was able to see themes emerged within the focus or what they thought was important. And from that, I noticed that those fit very nicely and layered within the teacher leader model standards. So looking at our first teacher leader model standard focused on collaboration, themes of professional growth, thinking about empowerment for our teacher leaders, and then collaborative action. Our second teacher leader model standard domain focuses on research. So things specific to research in those definitions and missions were working towards gathering data, systematic change, action research. Our third domain is focused on improvement. So thinking critically, equitable practices, and practice of inquiry. Our fourth domain is focused on instruction, with that addressing students' needs, to embrace equitable practice, and then facilitate learning. Our fifth domain is focused on assessment. With that gathering data again, analyzing data was a big focus, and then a continuous cycle of improvement and working through that with research. Our sixth domain is focused on community. So talking about adult learning, civic engagement within teacher leadership, and then working within beyond. I saw that mirrored in the conceptual framework as well. And then last but not least, our seventh domain for the teacher leader model standards is focused on advocacy. So talking about becoming an advocate, that closing that achievement gap, and then improve policies and practice. Specifically looking at research question 1, emergent themes of the program characteristics for program design and delivery are as follows. So course delivery design was influenced by external factors and the candidate's voice. Program contextual framework was an evolution that occurred through a reflective process. The evidence of teacher leader development supports within a carefully designed program approach, and then multiple endorsement pathways within the design of the teacher leadership master's or graduate programs for a holistic student learning approach. And then lastly, the teacher leader program's faculty and staff had a commitment to the teacher leader candidates development. The two that are highlighted in blue are the two that I will focus on now. This slide displays a visual representation of all the core courses for the teacher leader programs of the 10 institutions that I focused on for my study. So as you can see, I layered this with my framework, my conceptual framework, layered framework 4, models of, and a development within teacher leadership with those corresponding themes or courses. Something to point out is that intersection of the teacher leader skills. So there are 5 core courses that had that, where that hits that school-wide policies and programs, that teaching and learning in that communications and community relations. Another thing to point out is the assessment. There are many courses on assessment as well as instruction and learning. There are 10 courses that focused on that. And then, of course, we can see some of those themes that we had in the definition. There was teacher leader empowerment, community outreach, looking specifically at those multiple endorsements. So there were many different endorsements teacher leader candidates were able to get with their master's or graduate program while being certified for teacher leadership. And I categorize these as the themes in the data emerge between education by grade, or there were endorsements categorized by subject, and then student-supported education, and then beyond the classroom. Looking at the second research question, program alignment within the teacher leader model standards, one participant shared, I would also say that we've tried as best we can to stay faithful to the Commonwealth's request to follow the objectives of the teacher leader program. Findings included that teacher leader programs development strategies focused on leadership research agents and practices to intend real change, assignments and tools directly related to analysis, assignments and tools directly related to assessment, and then action research as a teacher leader development tool. Teaching and learning focused on understanding of the disposition, knowledge, skills, and efficacy required for teacher leadership for improved teaching and learning. Professional growth or professional growth plans were also a theme that emerged. Projects and strategies around teaching and learning development. A focus on shared responsibility for school improvement, and then differentiating instruction and intervention strategies, school improvement focus, and skill development with use of technology. Focusing on the communications and community relations, strategies included community involvement to develop teacher leader skills, collaboration, mentorship, and co-teaching to develop that candidate as a teacher leader, and then creating and maintaining healthy school climate. Several conclusions and recommendations resulted from my study. I will highlight a few today. So program design and delivery influence realizations. One, the response the candidates need as working professionals. So they really listen to the candidates, creating all online courses, having evening courses, adding multiple endorsements that are going to help further that candidate's career. Second, midpoint check-ins to support teacher leader development in the program progression. So having that check-in there to make sure that the students are progressing as they need, if they have any questions, or helping with direction and guidance. And then thirdly, that there's this multi-discipline or endorsement that the specializations are able to help the candidate continue to grow and are integral to the teacher leader programs. Teacher leader model standards, those guiding framework and that policy helps to create well-rounded teacher leader development. Secondly, the teacher leader model standards spanned through theory, research, practice, and reflection. And then thirdly, the programs built skills to support activities within and beyond their school, promoting real change. Recommendations for future study. So firstly, it is recommended that Kentucky teacher leader programs identify and support candidates' workplace environment from the start of the program. So because that's such a huge component of many of these programs, and that teacher leader candidates are using their workplace to grow and learn and intend real change, we want to make sure that that environment is ready to receive that candidate and help grow them as well. Secondly, the year 2020 brought the global COVID-19 pandemic. With it, a reimagined way of teaching was required. Among those working to navigate the unprecedented and unpredictable modifications to the school structure were teacher leaders. This was evidenced by listening to the unfolding stories of concerns of upcoming and acting teacher leaders. Thus, the pandemic situation elicited the implications for future research on the teacher leader model standards. I encourage research to understand how teacher leaders respond to the sweeping changes and constant uncertainty brought in the year 2020. Specifically, examining how their teacher leader programs with the embedded teacher leader model standards prepare them. Teacher leaders with the reinvented normal and demanding flexibility, remote instruction, and increased collaboration with parents and community could be another focus as well. Thirdly, this research can have implications on the impact of the program's effectiveness on developing teacher leaders. I know I shared a lot today. Thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to your questions.